Hey everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, October 10th. We are intraday right now, and this is our weekly trade ideas video where we bring you some of the names that we are watching that are on our watch list that you may find interesting for your strategy, for your trading. All of these names are on the long side, and today markets are getting pummeled out there. So certainly by no means are these names that we should be jumping into today. These are simply some stocks that are holding up well, that are pulling back, that might be able to lead the charge when the market can stabilize, and it'll give you some, really prepare you for some of the more resilient names out there for if this market can start to catch its footing. Now, as always, these videos are sponsored by our partners over at Investors Business Daily. We got two names from their watch list today, and if you want access to their stock lists, check the description of this video in the YouTube channel here for access. So briefly on the S&P 500, breaking down today, it is clearly a risk-off day. We talked about this in the midweek video yesterday. This 2870 area in the cash market here for the S&P 500, that was the critical level to hold. That was the highs back in January. That was the lows back here in September. That was the breakout area in August. And you can see today we are, with authority, breaking down, expanding lower below this support level, doing it on heavy volume. So we do want to be cautious. We do want to be defensive. We are looking at long names today, just because that is what I trade. I trade individual stocks to the long side. So I'm always curating a watch list when markets are getting beat up, not necessarily jumping in with 2 feet and trading them or buying them. So do protect yourself out there. Do your homework, and of course, always trade with stops and know your position size. So the first name, we're going to start with IBD's list. The first is EHC. So this is in the healthcare space. This is Encompass Health. It's been in a very strong uptrend for all of 2018, about a 60-70% gain from the start of the year all the way up to highs. And you can see now it is certainly pulling back here. It's not immune to this weakness, but it's doing it in a fairly orderly fashion. It's not completely getting crushed here, seeing some, very high volume sell spikes. You're not seeing massive expansions in range to the downside. It seems to be fairly orderly channel that this is trading lower in. So this is simply, again, a watch list name for me. It's not ready just yet, but I'd watch this general channel here. It's a strong stock that's made good performance this year in a more defensive area. And if it can start to eventually lift through the top end of this trend line here, take out a prior pivot. So in this case, right now anyway, it'd be around $79. That would be interesting. Take a look at that MACD as well, starting to try and move back up and stabilize here and head higher. So EHC, just one name that is looking decent here, not ready today, but something worth paying attention to. The next is Apple, of course, a name nobody it's not a mystery to anybody here, but this is still holding up really well right now. In the NASDAQ 100, the Qs, some of those other big tech plays are feeling a little pressure right now, but Apple is staying quite resilient here, and that is a good sign, certainly for the market too, as it has such a large weighting over $1 trillion market cap. But it is holding up, it is stabilizing. It's not the fastest moving stock now, but it is range bound, and this is looking decent here if it can continue to consolidate, if it can hold up while the market pulls back, and ideally hold this 216 area. Then we could look for either a support buy down here or eventually some type of continuation pattern on this consolidation. It does have earnings in a few weeks, so do keep that in mind, I believe on November 1st. But for now, Apple, IBD name here too, acting quite well. Now, two other names that I'm looking at here on my watch list. There's a ton here, and I didn't want to bring you just a full video of individual stocks in the utility space, because I know that is fairly, fairly boring, and as traders, we're probably not going to be allocating a tremendous amount of capital, if at all, to short-term or intermediate-term utility plays, but it is something to pay attention to. I'm going to bring you just one of my favorites. It's VST here. You can see it broke out to new highs, the highs made back in June. It broke out just a few weeks ago, did it on some good volume, and now you can see it's kind of flagging out here. MACD made some new highs. It is a utility, but it is got some movement behind it. It does have a little bit of beta here, so I like it. VST here, something to pay attention to. If it can start clearing above, say, 25, 75, 26, that would be an interesting continuation pattern there. Next up, CME. So this has been a total monster here, has not given anything back on this recent weakness. In fact, it continues to power higher here. If we go to a weekly chart of it, you can see it did move sideways for most of 2018. It peaked in about March, and then all the way to just last month in August, late August, it started to break out through the April highs, the year-to-date highs here. It went sideways for 4 more weeks, and then last week it had a 7% move to the upside. So has completely ignored market weakness right now. Again, it's not a super high beta play, but it's a name that is very resilient here, seeing kind of persistent rotation of capital, or at least a bid in CME. So something to pay attention to. Not super set up right now, but again, a nice watch list candidate. Finally, instead of picking out some more utility names, I just generally wanted to highlight the staples, consumer staples right now. There's a lot of names in this general space here that are acting well, and that makes sense as the market starts to sell off, as there's some fear in there. We're going to move to those more defensive names, the staples, things that do well as markets do pull back. So you may find some interesting setups if you start digging into the XLP, and of course, utilities. You can see breaking out to new recent highs here. Nice volume coming in throughout October. Again, not a sexy sector, but you're going to find a lot of names that are holding up well and not getting beat up like you're seeing in a large area of the market. And to a lesser extent, even energy, not necessarily today is pulling back, but there are a lot of energy plays here that are holding up well, that are acting well, that are coming across my watch list. So keep an eye on those 3 sectors as we do see the market continue to feel that pressure. So that is it. That is what I have for this week's video. Do protect yourself out there. Hopefully you are navigating and not getting too sideswiped by the selling pressure today, but keep your head up, manage that risk, and I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks so much, and talk to you then.